Did this movie make you cry at all?
I'm surprised to say that it didn't, and I think that's because everybody told me it would.
Hi, I'm Luke.
And I'm Becca, and we're talking about movies like we know stuff.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our channel. Today, we're going to be talking about our review of the movie Remarkably Bright Creatures. We're going to start off with a synopsis from Becca.
Okay, so within 2 weeks, 3 different people told me to watch this and also told me to read the book.
Yeah.
Which I'm assuming they're both pretty faithful, since I do think I was recommended by people who had read and watched both.
Okay.
So this should be an accurate synopsis.
All right, perfect.
So my friend told me this story centered around an octopus's point of view, an octopus observing people. And she even said to me, that doesn't sound very interesting, but I promise you it's excellent. But in my opinion, that's not really the synopsis. It kind of is, but it centers around this older woman named Tova, who's a cleaning lady at a local aquarium. Her son has passed away, her husband has passed away, and she really has no other purpose in life except for doing this job excellently and taking care of the sea creatures, most notably an octopus named Marcellus, who's a rescue, who's on his last limb, essentially. He's nearing the end of his life.
Yeah, older in age, yeah.
And Tova ends up coming in contact with this young man who is coming to town in search of his birth father, whom has never acknowledged him or sent him child support, and he's in search of his father after his own birth mother dies. And his story is very tragic in the sense that I get the impression his mother was into drugs, she was a drifter, she wasn't around for him. So he really had a difficult life to begin with, and he's hoping to get in contact with his birth father to honestly get some money to have a start.
And probably a little bit of closure, too.
And some emotional closure,
Yes.
But he certainly is directionless. He doesn't have a career, he doesn't own a home.
Lives in a van.
He's living out of a van down by the river.
Yeah, there you go.
And really the movie is about this incredible friendship between these two humans.
Yeah, as told by the perspective of the octopus. Yeah.
By Marcellus.
Yeah. Great synopsis. So we're going to start this review off spoiler-free, and then we'll let you guys know when the spoilers are coming so that if you want to go check out this movie, you won't be spoiled on anything. I'm going to start off by saying that I really like this movie. I am glad it got recommended to us. I'm glad we got to see it. It was very entertaining, a lot of emotional moments in it, and it just felt kind of cozy, kind of artsy movie. I don't know if you got those vibes.
It was definitely my kind of movie.
Yeah, it was more of a your kind of movie than my kind of movie, but I still appreciated it. For
It
sure.
was this beautiful, sad, also somehow uplifting movie. It felt like a salve on my bitter heart, frankly. I love this one.
Yeah.
I can see why so many people texted me right away telling me to watch it, and I definitely will be reading the book.
Yeah, I think it would be a good book to read, for sure. I think it will tell a very similar story and probably just as emotional.
And I'm hoping that the dialogue is pretty similar, especially the narratives from Marcellus, that so many things that the octopus says are so deeply insightful, which I know is the point, but I couldn't stop being impressed by it.
Yeah.
Where there's a scene where Marcellus says, I don't understand why humans have so many words, but are terrible communicators.
Right.
And he says it more eloquently than I'm saying now, but the sentiment
Yes.
is there.
Same idea.
I feel like there's a lot of sentiments in this movie that could be embroidered on a pillow.
Yeah.
If they were a little more concise.
Sure, absolutely. You just need a really big pillow.
Right. So,
Yeah.
I will say that I don't know if the big reveal was that surprising to me. I feel like I did see it coming a mile away, and I'm not going to talk about what that is now.
Sure, of course.
But I still loved it.
Yeah.
It's a shockingly heartwarming movie when it starts out. Pretty dark, pretty depressing.
Yeah.
This woman is grieving her son, whom she lost when I believe he was a teenager. She's widowed.
There's a bunch of rumors that are swirling around the town because it's a small town.
Right. Particularly around the death of her son, which obviously is terribly painful. I get the impression she hasn't gone in his room since everything has happened. Even the octopus is sad because the octopus is talking about how I'm in the last leagues of my life. I've been taken from my home.
Yeah.
I'm only taking comfort in this other human who cleans the aquarium, who's also clearly as introverted as I am, and I find comfort in that.
Yeah.
And then in Cameron, the ambling, directionless young man he meets, obviously his story is very sad too, because he's it's just like this flailing like elder millennial, I'd say.
Yeah, right, exactly.
And I feel like some of his struggles, in a way, they hit us all close to home.
Mm-hmm.
That I do feel like our generation, we all feel like we grew up slower.
Yeah.
For reasons that are and aren't our fault.
Yeah.
And even though I feel like our lives have more direction than Cameron's, when he meets somebody his age who owns their own business and has children, he's like, oh, but aren't you my age? And that kind of like hits to the heart of how we know a lot of people, and we've had moments in our own lives of, oh, like, shouldn't I know what I'm doing?
Like, am I behind the ball? Yeah.
Yeah, Cameron's almost a little bit more relatable.
Yeah.
Than I think I expected.
Sure, yeah, I would agree with that. I have a question. You don't have to go into details, obviously, but did this movie make you cry at all?
I'm surprised to say that it didn't, and I think that's because everybody told me it would.
Okay, yeah.
So it almost took a little bit of the shock factor out.
Agreed. I think I'm in the same boat there.
That I just wasn't in the mood to cry. I was loving the movie. It's honestly exactly what I was in the mood for, but I just didn't feel like I didn't feel like being moved to tears, which is a little unusual for me. But I think if so many people hadn't told me that I was going to cry, maybe I would have been a little bit more caught off guard.
Yeah, I would say that I'm probably in that same boat, that I was also kind of expecting that. And
the movie's also kind of obvious too.
I think
it's you're starting it and you're like, oh, it's the movie where the dog dies.
Yeah.
Like, that's the vibe you get.
Well, right, yeah, they make it pretty obvious. And I'm not sure if I can quite pinpoint it, but I feel like the movie misses on some beats that makes it more emotionally impactful.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like I know what they were going for, but they didn't quite hit it.
I'm also
with the writing and the editing, maybe.
Glad they didn't hit too hard on those points. You know, as a mother myself,
sure.
I don't know if I needed more dramatic, devastating imagery of her son drowning, which, by the way, is not a spoiler. You can probably read that on the back of the novel.
Right.
So I think there was just enough for me to not be traumatized as a parent.
Right. Yeah, that's fair.
So I'm honestly okay with that. I feel like this didn't need to be on the level of like Steel Magnolias for traumatized.
Ripping your heart out.
Moments. Just because Sally Field is also in that movie doesn't mean every movie with her has to be like that.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. All right. Well, hopefully that was enough to convince you to go check out this movie. It's on Netflix if you want to stream it. And before you guys go to do that, please don't forget to give us a like, give us a comment, and a subscription. It really helps our little growing channel out. And if you want to hear some spoilers on the movie or more details, stick around. All right. And we're back into the spoiler territories. So what do you think, Becca? Give me some spoiler thoughts.
Spoilers. So I'd be curious if you caught this, because usually I feel like I'm a little slow on the uptake when it comes to twists, but I saw Eric being Cameron's father from a mile away.
Did you? Okay. I didn't, but it also didn't really impact me or surprise me nearly as much as it maybe should have. I was like, oh, okay. I guess that kind of makes sense.
Pretty much as soon as Cameron meets the man he thinks is his birth father, and he says like, oh no, me and your mother didn't date. I was like, that's when it all came together. I was like, oh, she got pregnant. He was upset. I'm relieved to know that they do reveal at the end of the movie that Eric knew that his girlfriend was pregnant. They were picking out baby names, because I did have a feeling of, oh no, was he so upset that he went like sailing on a windy night and then like died? Like, no, I think he was distressed.
I think, right.
That it was still like, how am I going to tell my parents that I'm having a kid?
Right.
So that was a relief to me that he knew. Yeah. But as soon as he talked to, Simon, the not birth father.
Right.
And immediately talked about the ring, I was like, oh, Eels. Well, his first name is Eric and his last name is Sullivan, so he probably has some ridiculously long name. And then I was...
and then you were bang on.
And then I was right. So, I mean, I love that twist. I think it is honestly like a gorgeous and like beautiful way to wrap up the story and to give Tova family, who clearly is such like a loving, wonderful mother, and is clearly going to be a loving grandmother and be this family that Cameron never had.
Yeah.
But I also don't think the twist was as clever as the movie thought it was.
I would agree with that. Yeah. And also, it's such a weird, to me personally, it was a weird idea, like your friend said, that the narration is kind of done by the octopus. Like, you never think to an octopus to be like a lovey or a sentimental or a creature that you could even like feel emotions for.
No, they're scary.
But they do very good job of conveying the emotions and really connecting you to the octopus through the way that he behaves, the risks that he takes throughout the movie, getting the ring before he tries to escape the ocean, and and just I think they did a really good job of making the octopus a generally unattractive, non-loving animal
Be attractive
and loving. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they make you bond with that character, that animal.
Right. Because when I think of octopuses, I think of something that's aggressive and hostile, and I think of like the giant monsters in the depths that we can't reach.
Krakens.
I think of like krakens, exactly.
Yeah. I just keep thinking of Davy Jones. That's all I could keep thinking about.
I mean, also, I feel like the octopus is animated very well.
Oh yeah, he was done very
because
well.
like clearly it wasn't a trained octopus.
Yeah, right.
But I do think they animated him well.
They did. There's a couple times where I think the lighting was a little off, in my opinion, but for the most part, I think that it was done well.
But I did feel very attached to this like silly, squelchy creature. I mean, I love offbeat animated movies. I love Pixar, so I'm not surprised that I got attached to an octopus.
Right. Yeah.
Also, fun twist that Alfred Molina is the octopus,
Oh,
aka
okay.
Doc Ock from Spider-Man 2.
That's quite the call out.
The best Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
I will say that I liked him in this role a little bit better.
Yeah.
He's a little nicer of a guy.
For sure. Yeah, he's definitely a good guy on this one. Yeah. He's got a nice narration voice. He sounds
It's
a
so
little
calming.
He sounds a little bit like David Attenborough, who is the guy who does the British narration for the wildlife shows.
Yeah. Yeah.
You always see the predator in its natural habitat. Has a horrible Australian accent. Might have even sounded a little bit like Steve Irwin.
Steve Irwin?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Anyway.
Well, your impression aside, I think he does have like a very soothing, like grandfatherly voice.
He does, yeah.
And
Almost like wants to put you to sleep a little bit, you
it
know?
fit well.
In a
It
good
fit-
way.
Again, like you said, this movie, it reminds me of other like sad dramedies that I love, and they somehow have this cozy feeling, and I always found that odd. Like that sadness could feel cozy, but maybe these movies feel comforting because it makes us all feel so like connected.
Yeah.
Like, it reminds us of how human we are and how alike our struggles are,
Yeah.
regardless of, well, in this case, what species we are, but
Yeah.
in our case, regardless of where we live or what social class we're in.
Yeah, right.
That we all have the same desires, and maybe that is somehow comforting.
Yeah. No, that's a really fair point. Yeah. But yeah, just to pivot quickly to like the technical aspect of things, I think this movie was shot well. There's no stunning, gorgeous shots in this movie, but there's good shots in cinematography in this movie.
I mean, wherever they filmed is gorgeous. I'm guessing
Yeah.
the Pacific Coast?
Yeah, I think they said Portland, so that would suggest Oregon is nearby.
Yes, that'd be the Pacific.
So yeah, it'd be like Washington, Oregon, somewhere in that. So that area is really beautiful.
Made me wish we were going to the mountains soon.
Yeah, for sure. The music was well composed. I think it was an all original score for the most part. There's a couple rock songs thrown in there to fit the characters like Cam and with the convenience store gentleman listening to the Grateful Dead.
The Irish guy who likes the Grateful Dead.
Exactly, yeah. So there's a couple rock songs in there, but the rest of it I think is original. And it was a well done score. I mean, it made you feel things, and it swelled at the right moments, and very beautiful, sweeping, cinematic, kind of symphonic sound to it. So yeah, I really liked it.
Yeah, really. I don't have
A whole lot of bad things to say about this.
I don't
movie.
really have a lot of criticisms.
Yeah.
I feel like the script is great, the movie is beautiful, the cast is wonderful. Everything Sally Field touches is gold. That she is still such a phenomenal actress. One of my favorites that I always forget it's her.
Yeah.
And I've seen her even in very similar roles across multiple movies, and I still forget that it's her. And I wouldn't say she carries the movie because I feel like it's a very strong cast.
It is a strong cast,
But
yeah.
obviously she's the MVP. I mean, she's the MVP grieving mother
Yeah, she plays it very well.
that we all wish was related to us because she would be so caring and loving.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, I mean, it was great.
Yeah.
And honestly, I feel like it's been a hot minute since we saw a really great movie in the vein of a good drama because except for animated movies, of course, this is my favorite genre.
Yeah.
So, personally, this was right up my alley, and I think it's very deserving of all the praise it's getting. And I'm just happy to see movies like this being made, something original, something that isn't a sequel,
Yes,
or
or
isn't
a remake.
vapid. And look, we've enjoyed some of these like
Sure.
vapid remakes or
Yes.
sequels.
Yes.
But I love movies that make me feel something.
Yes, agreed.
And to me, in a movie, the sacrifice is worth it to feel something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, agreed. I also appreciate that they didn't dwell on any of like the heavy parts of the movie.
We didn't
have a long,
unbearably.
slow, sad cutaway whenever the octopus like passes away. The octopus actually doesn't even pass away on screen. They kind of let it just kind of fade to black and assume that he lives the rest of his life, hopefully relatively happily, but he doesn't just like pass away on screen.
Right, we don't have to watch Sally Field sobbing over this poor dead octopus.
Right.
Because that's what I was expecting.
Yeah, I
I'm
was
like,
fully expecting that.
we're gonna get this like really, really sad scene, like when
the
Kristen Wiig comes home in the Skeleton Twins and finds the dead goldfish on the floor and tries to revive it. I thought we were gonna get this really, really dramatic death scene with no last lines from Marcellus, and having him be able to close out the movie gave me the closure that I needed to walk away from this film.
Yeah, I was fully expecting when they were talking about like, oh, I leave the tank and it takes a toll on me and my heartbeat starts to slow. I'm like, oh gosh, he's gonna like try to save something or do something outside of the tank.
Save the ring.
And then he's gonna die because he sacrificed himself to bring these two together or something like that. I was fully expecting that. So that was nice that we didn't have to.
Which it would have
that.
been fine. I could see the author taking that route too, but it was.
I appreciate that it wasn't the obvious answer.
Yeah, I like that they mixed it up a little bit without putting too much of a bow on it. Marcellus still leaves. He is still probably going to die quickly. He even tells the audience, like, I am going to die soon.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's not shied away from, but it's also not drawn out on screen.
But it's a surprisingly upbeat and lovely epilogue.
Yeah, it is.
More upbeet than I expected for a movie like this. It would be a little more open-ended, but you see Cameron, living with his grandmother, starting to date, Tova's willing to date.
Yes.
It is shockingly nice.
There's a nice bow on it at the end. There's not a lot of open-ended questions. You're right.
They were a little nicer to the characters.
Yeah.
At the end.
Yeah, for
than
sure.
These movies usually are.
It's true. Yeah, it's very
They're always
true.
just driving off to the sunset.
Yeah. So.
Really, I can think of 3 movies in this vein where they just drive.
Yeah, just to end it. Yeah, no, that's fair.
No, I'm gonna name them all. The Way Back.
I knew you were gonna name that one.
And the one about the billboards.
Three billboards outside of some town. I can't remember what the name of the town is, but yeah.
There's driving. And the Holdovers.
Okay.
Paul Giamatti's driving off into the sunset.
Yep, you're right. Yep.
So it was really nice.
Yeah. They gotta figure out a different way to close off their movies.
So honestly, it was nice.
Yeah, it was a nice movie. It was a very nice movie. So let's put some scores to those nices. You want me to go first this time?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to give it a 7.2. I think this is a very good movie. Not super up my alley, but a well done movie. Again, I think part of my drawbacks are the fact that the cinematography was okay, not the greatest. And I think that there were some emotional beats missed. I think if they could have made You or I Cry, I think I would have given a better score. Because this movie, I think, was aiming to do that and kind of whiffed on it. Intentionally or not, I'm not sure. But that's the reason why.
Yeah. I think you're being a little stingy.
I'm sure you do.
I'm giving it a 9.
Okay.
I really loved it, honestly. Even though I think it could have been a little tighter, it could have made me a little sadder. But honestly, the subject matter of the movie is so sad to begin with that I'm personally okay with the direction that they took.
Yeah.
So I have very, very few notes. I think it's.
Yeah.
I don't know if any movie is perfect.
Yeah.
That I can think of at the moment.
Sure.
But I think it's well deserving of an A.
That's fair. Yeah.
If I was a teacher grading
No,
it.
that's completely fair. Completely fair. So.
It gives me hope.
Yes.
Oh, good movie. Really good movies. Not just fun movies, but good movies.
Yes.
Can exist.
All right. Well, I think that wraps up our review. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you'd like, check out our last video where we reviewed Solo Mio, which is a Kevin James rom-com with, in my opinion, a little bit of an identity crisis.
I liked that one a lot less.
Yeah, you did. I like that one a little bit more. So clearly we are a little bit opposite on our opinions here. But check that one out if you guys like to. And before you guys go, leave us a comment. Remember to like the video and subscribe. It really helps out our growing channel. Thank you guys so much for watching and have a great night.
Bye.